Any of you guys watched the last season of Invincible?
I've not.
I haven't either. I know of the show. Watched. I haven't followed it all the way through. I'll be the first to admit. It seems very interesting, but I can't watch anything straight through. I'll revisit it in 4 years.
Yeah.
I have not.
Okay.
What's it about?
So basically, it's about a kid whose father is the world's most powerful superhero, and he is expecting powers to come in, and finally he gets his powers. He tells his dad, and long story short, his father tells him that he was actually there to take over the world. He kills off basically that world's Justice League, and it progresses from there. There's a lot that goes on in it. I would say that it's probably the best superhero show going right now. But it had me thinking a lot because the last season dealt a lot with the morality of superheroes and whether or not they should kill.
What is the? I mean, I guess what's the sentiment of the show?
The sentiment of the show, I think, would be one that I agree with, is that the binary look of that morality is detrimental to like a superhero's job. At a certain point, somebody could become so much of a threat that the best thing for a superhero to do is just to take them off the board.
Before I make my point, I would.
Well, I mean, the only thing I would say is that, like, what era of, like, storytelling involved the comics? Like, old Golden Age or Silver Age stuff and stuff like that. The idea now is more attractive to a person like me of a more complicated hero. Like, obviously, over time, you have, like, this paragon like Superman. Mm-hmm. He's, like, the ultimate Boy Scout. Morality code is in check.
He's talking about you, Pat.
Look at your hair.
We got a good guest for closing time. We got actual Superman, Clark Kent, over here.
This is the real shit right here.
I think the idea of the hero that lives by at least that level of the morality code of, like, you don't kill.
Yeah.
Or however you want to flavor that too, like say like the Superman thing, an otherworldly entity with insurmountable amount of power, coming to a place like Earth, where that
basically Superman.
That's
I feel like that's the best.
The infinite character.
That's the best story for Superman too. It's not so much him like beating up on like Lex Luthor or whatever, and Lex Luthor trying to beat him. It's Superman contemplating his own powers in the and trying to reconcile with how much power he can.
It's far more interesting.
Yeah, it's the most interesting dynamic on that. But I'm not a Superman like aficionado by any shape, manner, or form. So you'll trounce me, and in terms of anything I try to make.
Well,
any point.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, of course.
Don't be ignorant.
He writes for the Daily Bugle. He knows all about the
First of all, it's a Daily Planet. The Daily Bugle is somebody who wants pictures of Spider-Man.
I told you. I told you you would trounce me. I get them all confused. They're all liberal wrecks. So the point that I always make in terms of this is like Batman. Right. And we were talking off mic about this too. Like when you're talking about like that universe, or it's all part of the same DC universe, but if you're talking about the Batman like canon, you have
you're screwing into like modus operandi of like particular characters in distinct like lines of comics and stuff like that. Yeah.
But you have like the apex type of criminal that, in my opinion, you kill him and you kill him immediately, and that's Joker.
Oh, because the foil.
Yeah, Joker is the type who will just keep coming until everyone is dead, and he thinks that's funny that everyone is dead.
Isn't it, though?
That is the classic superhero morality test, is should Batman have killed the Joker at some point? And at what point is he responsible for the deaths that the Joker caused, because he just threw him into the asylum that he gets out of every time he goes into the asylum?
And a fortnight at most.
Yeah. But it's also at the same time, it's like, I'm just thinking about this on the fly too. It's like Poison Ivy is also like pretty much just as genocidal as the Joker is, because she's like tried to like turn the entire city.
Well, you also can't put her into an A/B morality like chart. It's that's where you actually have to spread out into like what personal goals are and stuff like that.
Well, I reconcile that too with so if you tier chart it, I put Joker in like an S tier in terms of like must kill like right now because he will kill everyone in the city and potentially on the planet because he finds amusement in it. I was thinking like A tier. You kind of convinced me earlier on that like Riddler would kind of be like A tier, but maybe I might bump that down to B tier just because I kind of always viewed Riddler as the type of villain that would like destroy the entire city if Batman couldn't outsmart him.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like Riddler is probably the most egotistical of Batman's villains, and that's almost his entire motivation is to test his own ego against
it's
Batman.
a test of all aspects of self against.
Yeah. And then you have like the very bottom tier, because I won't bore you guys with the whole tier list. And I only think about this in terms of the classical Batman villains. Like you can completely like, trounce me in terms of like all of the Batman villains and how evil they are and genocidal they are.
Tempting him.
Yes, I know. But like
Drinking all day. We only have so many hours, Dick.
the very bottom of that list, I think, is Catwoman. Because she's just like a street criminal. She's not really doing anything. She's not really hurting anybody. I've never heard of a storyline where she really tries to hurt like the entire city. She just tries to steal shit all the time.
And she's protecting cats.
Yeah, she is, which is
I feel very passionate.
She is like
more
a
than Batman's
very,
doing.
Yeah, exactly. Batman does nothing for cats.
In
Never seen
my
a single episode.
in my absorption of the limited material I have taken, I find her to be very self-serving in a way that is truly self-serving. It doesn't really bring a lot of other people through the blender, if you will.
She's not trying to create chaos the way that like a Joker character is. Is that fair?
She's often portrayed as more of a Robin Hood character,
Yes.
where
Yeah.
she
Yes.
is more like she is ethically weighing everything that she's stealing. She's not necessarily harming people.
She takes from humans to give to cats.
And half the time, in the comics at least, they treat all of the encounters between Batman and Catwoman as basically foreplay.
Yeah. It's
Nothing wrong with that.
So
I've hung out with some crazy cat ladies.
It's also the
Nothing
same.
wrong there, Dan.
It's the same vein too. Like I would have Mr. Freeze at the bottom tier for that too, because Mr. Freeze, while he does kind of jeopardize more like property damage and this, that, and the other thing, he's mostly like his motivations are based on like his wife was harmed by this corporation, and he's just trying to effectively revive her.
they're effectively, if you want to go to like old school grid, like morality lines, he's more, and you could debate whether it's more like lawful chaotic or but he's like a neutral character.
Yeah.
It's his own particular interest.
He's not trying to harm the population of Gotham. He's just trying to get this
Only
end done.
his end goal is always very much to him,
Yeah.
as opposed to
He's trying to
creating-
save his wife.
Yes,
And he's just doing it through what we would call through our societal like thought process improper means.
improper means or needs must, however you want to look at
Yeah.
it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's entirely subjective.
And it's also like it's a part of a larger discussion too, because I'm using Batman because that's kind of what I know.
Right.
But another thing that I do know as in terms of comics and all that stuff is X-Men. And you also have Wolverine, who is a hero, but he also kills. And he's also a part of a larger group where that's not a part of the operation. Like the X-Men, that's like, in order to be an X-Men, you don't do that. You bring like the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants or whoever to justice. You don't actually harm them.
The
Right.
fundamental reality, I think, that's being like broached by these things is the age-old question of does might make right?
Yeah.
You know, if these characters, if you have this power to be able to set things right in your opinion, and that's really the key question.
Yeah, and also, what level does moral idealism come into
Exactly.
it?
Yeah. So in other words,
really
if you've got yourself a Superman or a Wolverine or whoever, then you're now dealt with, is this person the person that I want to be able to dish out justice? Or are they qualified to do that? So it becomes this question of, is it justified? If I think that the person is qualified, is then all of their actions, are those then justified simply because I made that prerequisite of that they're the person to do it?
Yeah.
Is everything they do right?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. And also another point I think you mentioned before is that if you, how long does it take before you're actually selfish and not actually like stopping this dangerous criminal? Let's like say, for example, Joker, or maybe in the X-Men universe, Magneto, when usually Magneto doesn't really do anything that's particularly genocidal, but in the Fatal Attractions series.
Anyone who's seen X-Men 97 will also know what that covers. The Fatal Attraction story basically influenced that entire story, and
Yeah, they left some parts out, but it's mostly.
But yeah, a lot of it's from it.
That was like one of the big reasons why I wanted to watch it. I'm like, oh, they're doing the whole adamantium thing, but neither here nor there. Like, he threatened the entire population of the Earth by his actions in that. So, do you, knowing this about the Joker and Magneto, are you now being selfish by not taking him out permanently? Where is that dichotomy in the morality
it's
of it?
very interesting, and like I will speak right now on like how I kind of came into comics, and like I came into it later than most. I had a crazy godmother that was from Taiwan that had a bunch of other like cousins that got older, and then I ended up with like 2,000 comics one day as a person that didn't have any comics ever.
One thing leads to another.
Yes.
About what age?
I was probably 13 or 14. But like the way I went, because no comics, to those big long white boxes. Like,
Oh yeah, I remember those. Yeah.
oh yeah, they passed through many hands over time. Through the stores and friends and all this stuff like that. I got it all because I guess her nephew or whatever he was, like, oh, I'm an adult now. All this must go.
Yeah.
And I was young, and she was like, well, are you into like hero? I'm like, yeah, I love heroes, but like I wasn't big into comic books. It just wasn't in my purview when I was young. But it's like to come in and to realize like the different styles of heroes. You have like those archetypal, like Superman heroes.
They're perfect.
The perfect.
Yeah.
And this is going back.
It's the type of hero that I hate because it's just not.
Right.
It's not. There's no relation to it at all.
Right.
It's completely fictional.
And then for like a kid, a baseline flawed hero with like a strong code, Batman.
Yeah.
Like you can find fault, but you don't really think about that when you're young.
You don't think about it when you're young, but that's fair. Yeah.
Right.
Well, so like the comics I got and like the first box I opened were like weird X-Force comics.
Nice.
And then like a big chunk of like Cable comics, which I really glommed onto. And like
those too.
and like but it's like what I knew. I didn't know. I knew what I saw on like mainstream media of Superman and Batman, obviously. Never read the comics until I was much older after this.
This was like the bombastic, like late 90s Marvel
for
stuff.
sure.
Like the Rob Liefeld stuff
Yeah.
of big muscles, big guns. Everybody has
The
pieces
extremities
of
get a
their
little lost
body
in the
that
mix
are
sometimes,
metal.
but-
Like everything is badass at all times.
Everything's badass.
The 90s really got extreme with that, and I use that word, with purposefully. Like I was thinking about this earlier today with like Bane. He was a product of the 90s, and Venom. He was definitely a product of the 90s. Like these particularly with Bane, he was kind of like the perfect villain for Batman, because I was trying to think about where you would put him in the must kill, don't kill tier list, because he's not only like
He's kind of been presented poorly.
He's presented poorly, but he's like ripped. He's like a Venom, where he's like he will overpower you. He broke Batman's back, and also he's like a genius. So
That's the thing that gets lost, I feel.
well,
In all mainstream
So,
portrayals.
so one of the things that I'll say in the comics that they handle is a couple of years ago, Tom King, who was a CIA operative turned comic book writer, as they do,
Typical.
There's the future for you.
did a really long, interesting run on Batman, where Bane was basically the mastermind of this 100-issue storyline. And the culmination of it was essentially Bane taking over Gotham City, snapping Alfred Pennyworth's neck.
Yeah.
And then drawing Batman into a confrontation, and Batman ends up not killing him. He leaves him alive.
Yeah.
They give him personal stakes in it, and he still chooses not to end the villain.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but his reasoning is just that he doesn't want to kill.
Yeah, that's just the line that he will not cross.
Yeah.
And the problem that I have with it is because in the comics, what they always do is they put this as a line where on the other side of it is a slippery slope
Yes.
that is a
Yes.
cliff.
Yes.
Where if Batman kills one person, he's just going to get a taste for it.
Yeah.
He's just going to want to go out and kill everybody, and he's never going to stop.
Or if it's done right, there's opportunity for a very good story there.
I feel like it's so disingenuous to the way in which that's like described, essentially. This idea that where it's this slippery slope, that somebody would then like begin to just kill everyone, so to speak. That doesn't line up with reality as far as I know it as a regular human being.
I think the portrayal was a reaction.
Well, of course, yeah.
Can I make a counter argument with a particular comic book character, if I may? The Punisher. Doesn't he have that slippery slope? Like he just wanted to avenge his family, and now he just pretty much kills everyone who he thinks is a villain. You can disagree all you want. I'm throwing that out there for argument's sake.
That's fair
It's
enough.
interesting by portrayal.
My real quick, because I know that you're going to have a lot to say about this. My real quick about this is that the character of Frank Castle, if I'm getting that right, is somebody who wanted to kill. He was somebody who was like a regular human being that had like a lot of anger in him because of everything.
He was like the perfect honed weapon.
Yeah, exactly. And then finally somebody did something absolutely horrible to him and he took revenge and then he made this a part of his personality. So the idea for him to take this leap where it's like, now I'm looking for people to kill. Mind you that Frank Castle is a character, the Punisher is a character, where he was deliberately seeking people that he thought needed to be killed. You know, we can take that however we want. But I mean, you're still talking about somebody who believes in concepts of justice and of like some sort of like egalitarianism.
He has a very self-proclaimed black and white code.
Exactly. Yeah. But we all do. So in other words,
No,
I think
obviously
that,
it gets-
He
mixed.
also will just
No, he will.
blindly kill
Yeah.
without having any evidence that
No
somebody
hesitation.
deserves
No
it.
hesitation.
And somebody just
might makes right.
And that's but that's my point, because we're talking about the slippery slope, and I do see that as the fallacy. So I'm just saying this as an argumentative point,
Oh,
because
100%.
someone might bring this up, is that, you know what, we can talk about if Batman were to kill the Joker, well then like there's no real reason to presume that he would kill Catwoman. But we have the Punisher as this example of, well, these people killed his family, and he gets, you know, he kills them, but then it cycles into that slippery slope where now he's like, well, Spider-Man is a bad guy, and I should kill him. And then
The Frank Castle, he's in the
And that's how we're introduced to the
flip-flop on his, always pointing to the same side of the coin of his ideals, but like the flip-flop of guilt to vengeance, guilt to vengeance, guilt to vengeance.
Pat, what were you saying?
Oh, that's actually how we're introduced to the Punisher too.
Yeah.
In the comics, he first appears in The Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay.
As a villain who's hunting him down, but he was duped into thinking that Spider-Man deserved to be killed. But it very rapidly goes. So I don't view Frank Castle as an example of what would happen to Batman if Batman were to do something like that, because Frank Castle basically, he becomes the Punisher and he goes straight to becoming the Punisher. At no point does he try to be just like a vigilante who will just maim the occasional person. He goes straight to murdering.
I find Frank Castle black and white, solid ethos.
Yeah.
He just there's no journey. It's that.
No.
Yeah.
There was no slope.
No.
He just started there.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's a
continued.
cliff.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh, I have a family. I don't. Now I'm the Punisher."
Here I go killing again.
I just bring that up as the example because I
absolutely.
view, because you've given me crap about this on the podcast before, but now we have Pat here, so he can give me crap about it too. I view Batman and the Punisher as pretty much similar, not in terms of the way they convey justice, but the way that they were kind of like construed, because Batman lost his parents and then, you know, trained himself. He doesn't have any superpowers. You argue about the socioeconomics about that.
the line.
And then the Punisher pretty much did the same thing, but his training came before that. But I see them as just normal human beings, not rich, leave the rich part out of it because I know you just are going to be difficult. But
When are we doing this Marxist podcast?
not later, not during a closing time. But they're not superhumans, and they carry out the same sort of justice, but in different ways, in radically different ways.
Yeah, they're
Batman
bleeding
does
edge.
not
They're
kill.
bleeding edge of skill.
Yeah.
It's
Batman is rich. He gets all of his tools through capitalism,
Yeah.
and the Punisher steals his shit.
Yeah, exactly.
But both are capitalism. I think that when I look at this, it's that I go back to that might makes right thing. It's that the judgment is really what we're describing.
Yeah.
We're talking about the judgment that the character is using, and we're really talking about the results.
Mm-hmm.
It's the results. Do you like the person that was killed, and so on and so forth? And I know that we're really debating, like, do they kill somebody or not? But ultimately, what we're talking about is the righteousness in these decisions.
It's how well is it written? What's the story? How is it written? Does it make sense? Does it make it interesting?
A point that I would like to make, and you'll totally be in on this, Pedro. It's about the Jungian shadow, because if you're Batman and you kill the Joker, how far is it to become the Joker after killing the Joker?
Exactly. Yeah, martyrdom.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's like kind of what it breaks down to overall, and it's obviously a question that, and this is why even when we're talking about things where it's like a comic that, even though it's existed forever, is perhaps not always written in the best possible way, it's still so reflective of reality, because we still absolutely do this in regular everyday life, where we debate these questions of righteousness in terms of a killer. And when is it okay to kill?
And you're absolutely, I think you're absolutely on the money. Like right now, the predominant story in superhero stories is like they must not kill, or they are like an anti-hero or something. Like they are not considered to be like the golden superheroes. They are something a little darker. Because like everything in discourse has become more binary.
It's so binary now.
And that is how superhero morality is now. And I don't think that lends to the best storytelling.
It's because to touch upon the point that you made earlier, that's exactly what I'm trying to convey loosely. It's that's not how people are. People are not binary.
Yeah.
People are much more fluid than that. There's an enormous gray area where you can do things that we would normally, like if you just look at it at base value, it's like, well, it's wrong to kill, But then all of us as human beings can come up with a million exceptions to it. If you harm somebody that I care about, then all of a sudden there's an exception for me to hurt you. If you harm my animal or damage my property or something like that, I think that's where we all find ourselves in that territory, and that there's that fluidity that exists.
If I can back you up with a quick statement. So Christine and I, my wife, we've gone back and we're watching first season of the Netflix Punisher right now.
It's pretty good.
And like that show.
Yeah, it's a good show.
I enjoyed that show.
Back when seasons were more than 10 episodes. Had time to breathe, or more than 6 episodes, depending. But she asked an incredibly interesting question that actually makes an entire amount of sense. So, like, halfway through that season, like, he's being hunted down, blah, 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 and, like, but he has to go take somebody out on a military base, and he has a very small crisis of conscience. But, like, what if some not involved, just normal military recruit tries to stop me? Do I kill him?
Yeah.
Doing his job. And it's there's only one episode that deals with this, but like he's faced with that, and it's
a fundamental. Yeah. I feel like the reason that these things are broached in comic book series, in cinema and entertainment in general, is because it's such a fundamental question, and it's difficult to describe. Because we don't like the answers to it. Because to use that example where it's like, I have to go and kill this person who's a horrible person. Right?
So if I just to kind of close that point off, I'm sorry.
Please.
In the episode before, he kills like 12 people in a military hit squad that's sent after him in one of his old...
Well, they were bad people.
Yeah. So
they didn't have children or wives at all.
In this particular episode, obviously this is the Punisher first season on Netflix. I think it was like 2016 or 2017. He does this whole thing, well, I don't want to kill innocent servicemen. And she's like, well, didn't he just kill like 12 people in the last episode that were dressed up in full like U.S. servicemen?
And that's just it. Yeah. I think that the behavior that we like to engage with, you know, not just like the person who's doing the dirty work, not the soldier, the assassin, whatever you want to call it, but those of us who are viewers, whether it be a show or real life, is that we want to believe that the person that we're backing up is in some way the hero.
I had to say it in such a way, and I'm like, well, these military folks are under the direct control of this CIA,
and that's where I was going with it. It's that,
but he's trying to like make a difference between, and I'm going, well, I don't know way to try to explain this.
We never change
a normal serviceman that's just doing his job.
In our own minds. I think that what we do as human beings, self-included, we don't change who the hero is. The hero is the hero.
Yeah.
I chose to watch the show because it's called The Punisher. This guy is going to punish some bad people, and I'm way about that. So what we do in our own minds is that we change what the villain is.
Yeah.
And the villain is whatever we want that person to be. And then the other people who are around that said villain, they're whatever we want.
We can take that beyond comics too. Is that not the entire premise, or at least our interpretation, some of our interpretations of the show Breaking Bad?
Oh, yeah.
Walter is the bad guy throughout the entire run of that series.
For sure. Yeah.
But we empathize with him because we start with him being, you know, a normal person, and we watch him become this kingpin.
It shows you like the most benign, like any of us.
Yeah.
But that's just it. So you use the words we watch him become.
Yeah.
But I would love to take that counterpoint and say that we don't watch him become anything. We watch a human being be a human being.
No,
As you give them,
recognize their nature.
As you give them different levels of power. And that's what it is. It's that here you had this person, and in the particular example, he's a school teacher.
Yep.
And now he's in a situation where he needs to do something different.
Because the world is stacked against him.
The world is...
And he's out of time.
Yeah. The world is changing. He's out of time. All of these factors that are affecting him, because obviously you as a human being, you're always affected by everything that's happening around you. And then little by little, he becomes this person, and we choose to describe him as a villain or as a hero sometimes in the individual episodes. It's entirely subjective. It's made up in our minds.
Story done well.
Yeah,
Story done well.
And proper stories don't give you that good-bad dichotomy, because I liken Breaking Bad to Falling Down.
Yeah.
Like, we're going off the beaten path in terms of comic books. But you think the entire time, oh, this is just a regular Joe. And then you slowly find out throughout the entire story, no, he was never a normal guy. And you've been rooting for the bad guy this entire time.
And yet the counterpoint to that is that he was always the regular Joe, because your regular Joe could absolutely be the bad guy.
And that's the brilliance of that story. It's like you're both right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's a dichotomy that exists in all of us. Anybody could go and be that person. And that's what the problem is with your Supermans and your Batman.
Well, morality matters until it doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay, so both of those examples are like great subversions of the hero's journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where basically you were following a very similar storytelling structure in reverse.
It's
in
classic.
a certain
It's very classic. It's just
you are basically guiding this person through their trip, but instead of becoming heroic, they're becoming villainous. But the great thing about both of those is that they are both very rooted in the humanity of the central character. And that's what keeps them engaging and interesting the entire time.
Yeah.
So,
I
Agreed.
Okay, so you keep saying that Superman is not interesting. And I want to...
I don't know that I said that directly, but I very much so meant it.
And now I just lean back and watch him pummel you.
let
me get comfortable.
My butt just puckered.
Brace for shock.
Okay, so when it comes to morality and Superman, there are a few different depictions that explore what would happen if Superman killed. Probably the most well-known one is either Injustice.
Oh, yeah.
Where, that was such a phenomenal selling
I would
game.
say the way that's been gone through in-face media in the past decade, for sure.
Basically, the story of that is that the Joker attacks Metropolis, goes to the Daily Planet, infects Superman with some combination of kryptonite, Joker toxin, and Scarecrow poison, and tricks him into murdering Lois Lane, who he learns in the last moments is also pregnant with their child.
Yes.
Then Superman kills the Joker.
Every time.
Yeah. Superman then kills the Joker and goes down a totalitarian path abruptly, like straight off the bat.
It is, yes. A very linear, hard turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's also very similar to like the Punisher like term, is it not? Where he loses everything and then he just goes down that road. And unlike the Punisher, Superman has that totalitarian power. He could take over the world like that. Unlike the Punisher, who's just like, all right, I'll just like, I got to figure out how to kill like this low level.
There's levels to this game.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a couple of more nuanced approach to Superman killing somebody that I would actually like your take on as to which you think is more morally okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
All right. So the very well-known one would be from Man of Steel.
Of course.
In the climax of the movie, Zod is destroying Metropolis. He threatens to kill an adorable white family.
Yes.
And
Not a white family.
The media, will have,
My opinion just changed.
the media will have a field day.
Michael Shannon's just really begging for it.
and he straight up tells Superman, I'm never going to stop. You ruined my aspirations. I'm going to kill all these people.
Yeah.
And Superman snaps his neck before he can kill anyone.
Yeah.
All right. So that's one example of Superman killing somebody. And it's Zod. That a lot of people took very seriously and did not like. There is another example from the comics where Superman also kills Zod. And this is not some Elseworld story. This is not like Injustice. This is mainline Superman. This is in the 80s. They did Crisis on Infinite Earths. They rebooted their entire series. There was a story written by John Byrne over the course of several years where he established this new version of Superman. And the climax of the story is people traveling from another dimension where the survivors of Krypton are Zod and a couple of other people. They get to Earth. They wipe out the entire population of Earth.
Gotcha.
So they come to Superman to say, we need you to come bring justice to this person. And Superman agrees.
Mm-hmm.
And he first exposes them to gold kryptonite, which takes away Kryptonians' powers. Yes, there are several different types of kryptonite in different colors. They all do different things.
Just feed it to me, Daddy. I'll take it.
Right here.
Yeah, you want the green stuff? It's just bad. Makes him feel, makes him hurt. The red stuff does something crazy to him. It's unpredictable. Blue kryptonite hurts Bizarro.
Oh, of course.
And gold kryptonite will take away a Kryptonian's powers. So first Superman exposes them to gold kryptonite, and then exposes them to green kryptonite, which kills them. So he basically reacts to them wiping out the planet and executes them. It's not even his dimension. It's not his Earth. So which Superman do you think acted more morally? The one who prevented all of the deaths at the threat, or the one who traveled to another dimension and executed somebody who had already done it?
Bastard.
Wow, that's a good would you
That's a very good question. Oh, wow, how do I?
I mean,
my own morale is gonna get really exposed me here.
I guess I'll jump in.
Yeah.
I'll take the Man of Steel option because he's the one that prevented the deaths. Other than that, like, murder is never really excusable. It's not like something like,
something you wear.
It's something like you have to you said it properly there, Justin. You have to carry it with you for the rest of your life. But if it's to prevent like a cataclysm, then you might have to you have to take it, but you also have to just, walk with it for the rest of your life. And you have to make sure that it doesn't wear you down and turn you into like the Superman that becomes a totalitarian. That would be my answer to that.
I'm going to take a Nietzschean approach.
Injustice Superman was right.
My sentiment would be is that it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
It's that the entirety of it is arbitrary. It's based off of what your perspective of these. How do you destroy or create simultaneously? I would say that when you look at something like that, then you could say that the destruction itself allows for something else to be built, so on and so forth. I don't know. I wouldn't view it as either negative or positive, which is probably very psychopathic.
I'll actually add on to my point too, because I listened to a podcast recently. Like I mention him all the time, Dave Smith, libertarian podcaster. He mentioned like if like you're in a World War II situation and you know that if you just all the bad guys are right over here and all the good guys are right here, and we can just kill all the bad guys.
Okay.
But one small girl has to die to make all of that happen.
That's kind
then
of...
you do it, but everyone should stop
Yeah.
and recognize that one poor little innocent girl had to die to make it
That's
happen.
kind of what I mean then. So
Yeah.
thank you for the superior wording right there, and I mean that very genuinely. I feel like that's kind of what I was like going for. It's that no matter what it is that we choose to do. So in this case, we're trying to like spare innocent people. And basically, in every case, you're trying to spare innocent people and punish bad people. Well, the bad people have families. You know, they have families who are good people. So now they have to suffer because you just killed their like grandfather or whatever it is.
No one gets that clean.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So no matter what, you're always, every action that you commit, you're doing something by your own judgment, which is both righteous and horrible at the same time. So there is no, objective reality in this regard. And then getting back to the comic book aspect of it, this is exactly what I don't like about these, monolithic characters where they're just like, I will never, kill or I'll never do X, Y, Z. Well, it's like, you know what? Well, there's nothing that's perfect in the world. No matter what you choose to do, be you a regular human being, who chooses to join the military and you get shipped off to Iraq or whatever your scenario may be, or you're Batman. It's that, you know what? You have to make difficult decisions where you're both hurting and helping people at the same time. So then you have to make the decision as to who do you want to help?
Through what lens, and what does that lens matter to you?
Yeah, exactly. Or
does it not?
Yeah. And this is exactly like just as like a regular, everyday, casual, fucking observer of entertainment, be it a comic book or a film or whatever the case may be. This is what I don't like about movies or whatever, comic books, etc. that are so monolithic in that regard, because I think that it's the unlikable tendency that we all kind of like grasp onto in a certain degree. And for myself personally, it's that when I see something like that, where you give me this really monolithic character and I try and relate to that in some way. And it's like, well, you know what? I wake up every single fucking day. And if I could just always help the people that I want to help and never hurt the people that I don't want to hurt, that'd be fucking awesome. But that's not reality.
Yeah.
That's not the reality that I live in. And I don't know of any human being on this planet that lives in that reality.
And that's why it's such a great example, too, because in the example that Dave Smith gave, it's like, let's just say that morality is completely like you can just divide it. Yeah. Good guys here, bad guys here. And it's completely like, it's noticeable. It's objective. Like, these are the good people. These are the bad people. And if you can wipe out all the bad people, but the only repercussion is that you have to murder a poor little innocent girl to do it. You do it, but you should stop every time and recognize that little girl had to die.
I'm not pretend to have any higher understanding of moral judgment or anything like that, but I think there is something to that, as fucked up as it may. Like, I'm going to be completely honest. The way my brain typically goes, like point A to point B in these type of situations, I'm going to take care of the people that are around me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But even in those cases, those complicated.
But I mean, snap judgments.
Yeah.
And even in an example, how do you define good and bad?
Right.
Yeah.
What does it mean? Because by whose perspective?
And who is making those decisions?
Yeah.
And it's probably the person you don't want making those decisions as well.
There is no good and bad. We make these decisions on the fly very often.
But I think there is something very powerful to that dichotomy, that idea, where it's just like sometimes you will have to do something and it's in the name of good, but someone innocent.
An idea that exists in your mind.
Well, to prevent the loss of life. And maybe those people that the loss of life you're preventing aren't inherently good. We'll just be subjective with that. but it's
The classic example would be, saving baby Hitler.
yeah.
It's like it's a bullshit example, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, or killing baby Hitler.
Yeah,
I think you
or
mean.
saving him, killing him.
Well, I mean, if you're saving baby Hitler,
There's at least two time travelers. One of them's trying to kill baby Hitler, the other one's trying to save baby Hitler.
Listen,
They both meet outside, and history remains unchanged.
two rabbis meet in 1945, both time travelers. Go on,
Sorry, I'm not.
go on.
no, I don't have a point after that because that was ridiculous.
We love you.
Are you expecting me to close? It's closing time. Close for closing time?
No, let's just talk about how there's an unending stream of time travelers killing each other outside of baby Hitler's nursery.
And they're all Hitler. All of the time travelers are
God.
Hitler, just to be clear.
Which one of them's right?
Yeah.
The one that's killing Hitler.
That's fair, actually. Yeah.
I think this was an interesting conversation, though, because we found through it that we can take the questions of comic books, because it was starting out as comic books,
Yeah.
and just relay it to real life or interpretations of real life situations.
Yeah.
And that's the power of storytelling, is that through these characters that are just like mythic, superheroes, gods, essentially, we can find out more about ourselves.
And in which era? What does the zeitgeist want? What does the human need in any given time? Times of war, times of peace, times of uncertainty.
And that's a lot of what comic books are. It's times of war.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we think about heroes like Superman being an archetype, but that archetype has evolved.
Oh yeah.
Pretty much every decade
Oh,
that
yeah.
the heroes existed.
Yeah.
Like what we think of as Superman now, and like what we think of defines him as an archetype, is not what it was in the 40s,
No.
especially like down
100%.
the bed, or the 60s.
And the degree to which we can relate to these characters, I would say, for myself, it's that it has to tie in with reality, with who we are as human beings.
It can tie
The
into
more
just
we-
who you are, too.
Yeah.
Like, I identify more with, like, a Wolverine, Punisher, and Batman than I would with a Superman.
And you still need somebody, you still need that character who has a bit of a dichotomy to themselves.
Yeah.
You still need a multifaceted character because you yourself are multifaceted, as is everybody at this table, as is every human being on this planet, as far as I'm concerned. So you still have to have a character that isn't perfect. You can't have the perfect hero and things like that. That's where I would kind of chime in on that.
I
And I
agree.
think if you remove moral black and white from the equation, then you are on the right course
I
to
think so.
make pretty
I
much
think
any
so,
hero
yeah.
more relatable.
Yeah, I would completely agree.
And a lot of these heroes came from a time where I think, some structure was sought after.
Yeah. And also, we inherently want things to be black and white. We inherently want good and
yeah,
evil
yeah,
things to, like, because we want to feel good about ourselves. Like, those are the bad people, and we're here. We're
Well,
on the good
easier.
side.
It's
It's
just
easier.
easier.
But it's also more meaningful to, like, I'll bring up Jung again, to often to contemplate what is your shadow?
Yeah.
That is the proper way to phrase it. Like, how can
Yeah.
you be reflected in terms of
Yeah.
your the darker side of
What is
how
your
you
shadow
behave?
and how do you live with it?
Yes, exactly.
Is it Democrats?
It always is.